Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chris and Andre Show.
Man, you guys missed it. Welcome to the Chris and Andre Show. We're super glad you joined us. I'm Andre.
And I'm Chris.
And we appreciate everybody sticking in with us. And let's take a moment and say thank you to, we have 800 plus subscribers. I want to say 811 on SoundCloud.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So really excited about that. If you haven't had a moment to subscribe on any of our different channels, whether it be SoundCloud, Pandora, YouTube, please do and like whatever you can. It means a lot to us. We're really trying to make this thing a bigger community. So, yeah.
Yeah, we want this community to be thick.
No, I was super hyped when I saw like our SoundCloud numbers jump up, and just the engagement that we're getting on YouTube is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's one of those things like SoundCloud. I think when we first started there, you and I both kind of had the feeling like, one of these things is not like the other, and we were that thing. But it's gotten, I think we're at a point now where we do have a lot more. There's more podcasts that I think are hosting on SoundCloud,
right.
Is part of it. But the community at SoundCloud, I think, is something that often gets overlooked.
Right.
And, I think it is first and foremost a community of musical artists. I know you love that term. Performing artists, musicians, however you want to, insult them.
It's so out of context.
Nugget drop. All right. You want to know the truth? Go back and listen to some of our episodes. Go back and listen to all of them is what that actually means, so that you can understand all of the context here. But yeah, like the thing that I have really enjoyed about the SoundCloud community is just how supportive they are. Like you get a lot of refollows, like follow for follow, but you also get a lot of people who are going on and liking and reposting and sharing your tracks. And so, I have always kind of made a point when I'm on there to go through, add some new people to follow, refollow the people that are following us. I've started using their messaging platform to kind of alert people about YouTube. So like every week I'll go through and pick like another 20 subscribers on SoundCloud and be like, hey, thanks so much for subscribing. If you weren't aware, we have a YouTube channel. Please check it out. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, like it's a really great way to kind of get your stuff out there and to build that community. I'm like, we get a decent amount of plays on our audio stuff. I don't feel like the majority of that really comes from SoundCloud itself, but I do feel like the community and the support there is pretty insane.
Pretty solid, yeah. So we're really, as we figure out this leg of our growth, we're going to start documenting that, sharing that, and making a segment that we talk about here. So that way, if you're out there aspiring to start a podcast, the real secret is just do it. You'll make mistakes. Some things will work, some things won't work. And we'll just try to lay out what's worked well for us. But that's because that's something that we really, we want to. Well, we're going to circle back to this topic because there's something I really...
Just say it.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and I think that my brain is just like... there's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's kind of... It's not going to be your normal podcast, but one thing I do want to talk about is my boy is getting married.
Who?
Dude, I don't play. So here's a setup. Chris is getting married. I'm super excited for him. So I'm literally laying in bed on Sunday. I partied a little bit the night before, so it's kind of like just recouping. And my phone rings, and I'm like, all right, nobody calls me on Sunday. I don't think, actually my kids do, actually. Maddie called me. Gotta bleep that out. I don't want to put him on blast. But, he called me earlier that morning. I was like, all right, cool. And then my phone rings again. And I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, it's Sunday. It's the middle of the day. Nothing better be wrong. And so in my mind, I'm like, all right, this is not okay. Because I was really worried, dude. Like I was like freaking out.
Understood.
And I was like, all right, before you anticipate, like listen to the tone of his voice and kind of gauge that. And again, this is happening by ring 2. So this is how my brain works. And then, hello? Andre! How's it going? And it's like, okay, he just proposed. But I'm the guy you don't want to watch a movie with because I figured it out before the end of it. And I'm like, hey, Chris, we're talking, we're chatting it up. And then he's like, you're never, I'm like, he proposed.
Yeah. He didn't even let me get it out. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm all excited. I'm like trying to downplay it. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're just hanging out at the beach. My parents are having a Memorial Day block party today. So just kind of getting ready for that. And I got some exciting news. You proposed. You son of a bitch.
I was like, I'm happy for both you guys, man. That's huge. There's everybody always says it, but it's true. Like, but you mean it every time you say it. Couldn't be happier for like, and nobody deserves it more. And that means a lot for me because like you're just a genuinely awesome guy, and I love your daughter. She's my little buddy. And each time I get a chance to touch her, even when I don't get a chance to touch her, I'm like, hey, tell my little buddy I said hi. So,
yep. She's always asking about Mr. Andre.
Yeah. And Chris, he's so awesome. So, I'm really happy for you guys. I did all the emotional stuff on Sunday. So that's all you get.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm glad. Like, I didn't want it to be this whole like mushy, like, oh, Chris is getting married.
Oh, but I'm so happy, man. I'm like, the only thing is you messed like, you didn't mess up, but it's kind of selfish. You're getting married so close to my birthday.
I know. It's hard, like it's really hard when you're trying to pick a date, and you're looking through the calendar. And you're like, well, we can't do it here because of X, and you can't do it there because of Y. So funny enough, like we picked September 3rd. I guess I can share that here. Yeah.
It's super close to my birthday.
So the reason that we picked September 3rd, I mean, there's actually a lot of positives. The reason that it even came up as a possibility is because my favorite TV show, Bob's Burgers, Bob and Linda's anniversary is September 3rd. And in the very first episode, it's their anniversary, but Bob has forgotten. And Linda's like, you know what today is? And he's like, no. And, because of course he forgot. And so she's like, the whole thing is 9-3. 9 is divisible by 3. Like, that's how she remembers it. And he's like, lots of numbers are divisible by 3.
That is, well.
So I kind of joked. I was like, well, what about 9-3? And when we looked and we were like, actually, that's the Friday before the Labor Day weekend. That might be kind of perfect.
Yeah. It's I was born Labor Day 76. My mom reminds me all the time. It's a funny thing, my mom.
I get it. Labor Day.
Yeah. It's only funny for her. It's never. As many times as she's reminded me, 2 years ago, my birthday's in September. She calls me August the 5th. And says, hey, I'm the first one to tell you happy birthday. It's like, yep. Wrong month. As many times you told me about how long you were in labor for, and you'll never forget that day. You F up and call me in August. Like, God, thanks, Mom.
And you can always count on moms for that.
Yeah,
bring it back down to earth.
But I'm super happy for you guys. It means I'll definitely be at the wedding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's not like an option.
Yeah, I know. Because it's like a Saturday, right?
That's Friday.
It's a Friday. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, my birthday's on a Sunday.
See,
like
it's perfect.
My birthday is a national holiday for myself. It's my own personal. I never work on my birthday. It never happens that I work on my birthday. I refuse.
I remember there was one year where I was really glad I did work on my birthday. It was when we were at E area.
Yeah.
And it's because it happened to be, I think it was like our first quarterly offsite, like the team building activity when we went to Frankie's.
Yeah.
And so it was like my birthday. We go in, we work for like an hour, we have our presentation thing, and then it's let's all go get hammered and race go-karts and play laser tag.
No.
And so like, I had the greatest. I was just like, I think I remember telling, I don't know how to say his name, somebody at the end, like, this is the best birthday ever. I was drunk. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, but yeah, other than that, I've always just regretted the years when I have chosen not to take off for my birthday.
Yeah, that's one day. Like I screwed up on MLK Day a lot, like way too many times. But my birthday, I just can't. It's like my day to reset. It's obviously a new year, technically, and not just figuratively for me. But it actually leads me into my next topic. Like I know I grabbed a lot of things, but like one thing I really want to talk about, because it kind of goes back into a lot of things that I've been kind of picking up on a theme. Like I've been seeing this theme, like mental health. Like and I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, but you know, I've been trying to pull away from social media, not because I don't understand the objective of it. A lot of times I struggle, but I also see that it's a pretty dark place. Like when you start to peel off the layers, you know, I've noticed there a lot of dark and nasty things come out of social media. And the guy that I follow, Yashar Ali, and I'm not trying to butcher his name, but it kind of like he's, you know, just in a really bad spot, and he like reached out publicly, and I, you know, it was different, and I normally don't know what to say about those things. Or I probably don't engage in it, but it just kind of felt like you know, I'm not like a braggy type of person, you know that. It's just like, it hurts. It hurts to see people like struggling with the downside of life. And you and I have talked about this a lot, you know. And I think a lot of people, and I've heard this from a lot of people recently, they're struggling to be happy. And I've said this many times, like, you're not going to, happiness it comes and goes, but you'll find joy in things that are, you know, really true to life, you know, being a good husband, being a good father, being a good brother, doing things for others. That's where I find joy. Like, I'm not happy all the time. Like, I just can't be.
Nobody is. I mean, you know, it's like, I think you're right. Like, you know, they say like money can't buy you happiness, right?
Right.
And it's true, because money can't buy those things. You know, I think like maybe this isn't what you were going to say, but it sounded to some degree like where you were kind of going was you felt like responding was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, that not like you were obligated to, you know, but simply that here's somebody who's obviously having a hard time, who's struggling and is reaching out publicly, and maybe my response and my message doesn't change anything, you know, has no impact, but
right.
I don't know that it won't. And there's no, like, it just seems like, and I feel like in a lot of ways that's kind of where I guess I find myself disappointed with humanity at times, is because it seems like, man, the ask is so small, right? It's not solve my problems. It's acknowledge that I'm having problems, right? It's
right.
like offering support without having to be like your best friend. You know, you see somebody struggling, somebody who's having like a mental breakdown, right? Or an emotional breakdown somewhere, and everybody else, they're just ignoring them.
They're
right?
walking
There's
by.
There's that uncomfortableness that we feel, where it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I don't want to get involved in that. And I think it takes a lot of internal strength in order to see those kinds of things happening and say, like, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone. I'm going to see if there's anything that I can do to help. I'm going to try and be part of the solution as opposed to just pretending like there is no problem.
Yeah, there's and we may have talked about this before, and it breaks me up every time I talk about it. But I was on my way home from work one night, and I worked off of High House. My apartment was off of Chapel Hill Road, and I saw a car on the sidewalk, and nobody stopped, and I was going the opposite way. So, no, actually, I was going back towards Preston. The car was going back towards my way home, and I didn't see anybody stop. Like, there's a car obviously had run off the road and nobody stopped. And I was, closer to my destination, and I kept looking in the rearview mirror, and I noticed nobody was stopping. And so I turn around and I pull up behind the car, put my flashes on, and I see an elderly lady frantically screaming. I see a younger lady just trying, shaking the driver. And as I'm getting to the driver's side door, I open it and I see the driver in the car, and he's not breathing. And it was his mom and his wife. So I guess he had a heart attack while he was driving. And again, nobody stopped. And I get him out of the vehicle, and I'm trying to administer CPR. And I just, and I didn't feel a heartbeat at first. And, I was like, well, I'm going to try because, I don't know how long he's been here, but maybe if we can, I can help him. And I'd call 911 as I was parking my vehicle, and I'm administering CPR to the point where I knew, like, I still didn't hear the heartbeat. And the wife is crying. His mother's crying. And guess what? Nobody stopped. And I'm on the side of the road of High House administering CPR, trying to, revive this man. They were definitely from Asia, Middle Eastern. I want to, actually, they were Indian. And I just spent so much time trying to, save this man's life. And I noticed that he'd already urinated on himself, so more than likely, either from the heart attack or severe stroke he had, he probably wasn't going to make it. I just kept trying. When the ambulance finally showed up, I tried to give them whatever information I could, but nobody stopped. Nothing changed from the time I stopped until the time the ambulance got there. And that, it haunts me to this day that nobody stopped. And I don't think it's right. There's even our most feeble attempts to try can mean all the world to somebody. This man's mother just told me thank you over and over again. This is years ago. This is probably 20 years ago now. And I'm never going to watch. I just can't watch somebody just, I can't. So, that's what I felt when I saw this kid's post. That's what I feel when I see people just hurting. Like, we're asked to do one thing, and just by my faith, to love God with all your heart and love thy neighbor as yourself. And I would want somebody to stop for me. And I think mental health is, I don't know. It's really sad. I don't know where, I don't know where we got lost as people, but it's just echoing and echoing.
It's yeah. You know, like it's interesting that you bring this up because I think when you talk about mental health, you know, like I have struggled for the last couple of years with bouts of depression, and you know, I mean, it wasn't like I got to the point where I was gonna, you know, harm myself or anybody else, but like I didn't feel like myself. I was having, you know, weird thoughts that weren't, you know, like driving down the road and thinking, would it be that bad, you know, if I crashed into something and that was the end of it? Like, not thinking this is what I want to do, but just like, well, what's the big deal, you know? To the point where I decided to seek help. And, you know, one of the things that they did was prescribe medication to try and help. And it did a lot. And then the last year, after being on it for about a year, I had decided, like, I'm feeling good. I think I'm going to go ahead and try and wean myself off of it. My doctor's like, great, go ahead. And it was a combination of COVID-19 and all of the political stuff. And I started having, like, panic attacks. And my doctor was like, I think you need to go back on. And so I did. And then this last week, I was like, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, yeah. I realized that I was out of my medication. Like, I had my last one for like Friday or Saturday night, and I was going out of town, and I was like, well, it's not a big deal. I'll pick it up when I get back. Like, you know, I can go a day without it. But it's an SSRI, which for those of you that know, is serotonin receptor inhibitor. And so they can be extremely dangerous to just go like cold turkey for an extended period of time. Like, there's really horrible side effects. Right. I got to go through almost all of those the following week. In part, it was my own stupidity. Like, I put in my request to Walgreens, and they said that my prescriber refused the refill, which is a whole other story, but not my general practitioner. I called my GP then the next week, and he was like, yeah, no problem. Here's your updated prescription. But so, you know, it was like I got back, and I was like Monday, and I was like, okay, well, I'll make an appointment or whatever. I'll call my GP, and I got busy. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, and finally like Thursday, I was just like having like just anxiety, like horrible. My stomach was a mess. Like, I had this really terrible like brain fog, and I finally got in touch with my general practitioner. He got my prescription filled and everything. And so, that's not a joke. Like, that stuff is serious. And it's amazing how quickly your body reacts. You know, like the first couple of days, it was like, I don't feel great, but I feel okay. And then by that third and fourth day, it was just like, no, something is really wrong. Like, and again, not like I was having really horrible thoughts, but just feeling off, just like really, really off. And then within like a day and a half of getting back on my medication, I was fine.
Yeah, it's and I know there's stigmas with mental health, and I get that, you know, but I think I personally believe that everybody gets depressed. You know, I just think it's part of our experience as human beings, right?
Especially the way we've chosen to live.
oh, true, right? Like unrealistic expectations, you know. Workaholism is a rite of passage to adulthood, increasing debt. I understand that. I really do. And I think, and I don't pretend to be like a doctor, you know, like when we talk, there's days I'm off, you know, and I talk about it openly, and I'm like, man, that didn't help. I know what I got to do. I just got to, like, you know, I have to address it, you know?
Yeah.
But then I rebound. I kind of put those things into perspective, and I can work with them or understand my level of acceptance and move on. But I think it's something that people should really work on. You know, you look at the French Open, it just kind of pisses me off. It's like, you people don't understand that sure, there's a media responsibility. Sure, the people that host the French Open, I don't remember some French crap. I don't know. They understood the assignment. That was their tweet response to showcase and highlight for their players to say they understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a commodity. I've always been open about, hey, I appreciate my quote unquote job, but I don't need to work here. I don't have to. So I applaud her for saying, no, I'm good. And if that's the level of respect that is, I don't know. I think that I'm starting to believe and really see that there is no value on human life. Not superficially,
right?
But I'm really starting to believe people do not value human life.
No, I mean, human life is just another commodity, like you just said, right? Like, that's all that people are viewed as. And I think it's something that the sports world in particular, you talk about like that crossover between sports and mental health, right? I mean, you think about high school players, right? All these kids, playing football who are out here getting concussions, right, for years before we knew a lot of their science behind all of it, or did but chose not to say anything anyways. Right. And the whole idea is you play through the pain, right? Like, everybody's hurt, everybody's injured to some degree. It's how tough are you? How mentally tough are you? Can you block out the pain? And it's like, can I block out the pain of my torn ACL while I'm in the middle of a football game for my high school? Like, I mean, you talk about like, people who are workaholics and obsessed with their jobs. Like, that's not even really your job, man. Like, you're not getting paid for that. I mean, some high school kids are, but that's not the point. Like, I mean, you're not getting paid enough to go out there and risk your whole future, your whole livelihood.
You might not even make it to college.
Exactly. I mean, you go out there and you tear your ACL, you blow out both knees, and you're done, right? For what?
I took a week off from the gym this week because I ripped something. Like, I know I either twisted, pulled, ripped a muscle in my shoulder. Yeah. I can barely, at the start of the week, I could barely move my arm like this. I know, like, it's a perfect storm, Yeah. Athletes are people. We put them on a pedestal, but
athletes are people, but they've been treated like a commodity for so long.
Right.
Right? Like, it's the leagues, I mean, you look at like the NBA kind of is the one where it's like, oh, we talk about the star players. It's all about the players, right? But even then, it's like, at the end of the day, they'll just swap out LeBron James for whoever. I mean, like, LeBron's a little special in that case, but I mean, there's plenty of other guys that they will highlight, right? I mean, you got Jokic and
the list is too long.
Exactly. There's an unending list, and in 5 years there'll be a whole new cast of characters for them to draw from, right? And it's the same thing in college. I mean, you get these kids for 4 years. You think they care about these individual people? Like, it's not to say that, a head coach doesn't build a strong bond and relationship with his players, right? I'm not saying that there isn't some level of care there, but I'm saying from an institutional standpoint, right?
They don't care two shakes.
The NFL doesn't care about any individual player, right? It just cares, are we making money? Are we making money? Are we making every last penny we could possibly be making off of this?
Right? I'm at a loss for words. Like, I'm seeing, and I can taste the lack of care for, like, human life. I can see the desire for, just treating people with indignity.
Do you feel like this has gotten worse?
I think, I've been seeing,
or is it just more like on display? Like, is there less of a veil that we're having to look through now?
I think when we look back in history and we look at, the how did COVID affect our society? Sociologists are going to have a field day. Clinical psychologists are going to have a field day.
There's been like DNA studies, right, where they've shown that people who suffered through like the Great Depression genetically passed on different traits because they went through that.
Really?
Like that experience in their life somehow altered the DNA that they were then, the genetic code that they were then able to pass down to their descendants. And so I can't imagine that COVID in a lot of ways doesn't have a very, like, you know, that you could basically track certain things and then all of a sudden there'd be this weird shift in 2020, 2021, right? Where it's like, oh crap.
Something happened. There are so many gaps in our tangible things, our economy, workforce,
toilet paper.
Toilet
paper was literally intangible for a while.
And then if you look at the intangibles, it's how people respond to it, right? You take affluent people, which would be like middle class people would be considered affluent. How do they deal with suffering? How do they deal with struggle? Not very well, right?
No, by hoarding and, you know,
right.
Like, I mean, you think of it like I always look back at like the Fire Festival disaster, right?
Right.
And I watched the documentary on Hulu, and the one thing that stood out to me the most of all that is that when night fell, when night came, right, and it was basically grab a mattress, grab a tent. That's what we got here. Nobody's assigned anything. People destroyed mattresses, destroyed tents and stuff like that so that they had more area around them. It was all about them, not like I'm not taking 2 mattresses, but I'm going to destroy this mattress or I'm going to pee all over it because it's in the yurt next to mine and I don't want somebody staying right next to me. Like that's the mentality, not of everybody obviously, but in like crisis mode, right?
Nobody stopped.
No. And that's, I mean, you talk about like affluent.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the height of affluence. You know, like I have hundreds of thousands of dollars to drop on a concert.
It's telling of. Let's tie in politics, and that's where.
But it says right here, I can't not talk about the rot that is in our democracy. Oh wait, you can't not talk about it.
I cannot. It's the same thing. It's like there's like I was watching. I know this is going to be a weird episode, guys. So I hope you. The theme is like there's something wrong. Like I'm telling you, there's something wrong. There's something that is so off in our society, and we can't even. Either we can't talk about it, which I think is what we don't want to do, or we don't want to admit it's true.
Yeah.
Like we keep pushing it off. And that's what's blowing my mind. And politics is a great reflection of it. When you look at what the former GOP, or I don't even know what to call them anymore.
I mean, just call them Republicans. I mean,
sure.
That's what they are. That's the badge that they wear, right? They wear it with pride.
It's I don't know why we're talking about the filibuster. We can't pass, and I've said it year after year, time after time. Why don't you have the legislation ready? Right? I don't give a crap if we don't even get it to the floor of the House.
Yeah.
Let's keep these bills in succession. Let's focus on policy. We can drown out all the other stuff. But I think that the hype of the celebrity, of the celebrity politician, of the pining after. Actually, I don't think it's pine. Like Maggie Haberman made a good point about Trump. People want to pretend like he doesn't exist anymore, but you can't do that. Right? That's what happened in 2015, 2016, and he became the president. So. Like if you're playing chess, that's a wise move, but I don't think it's pining. I think it's like the Republicans can't separate the two. They can't separate the fact that there is a dire need to move away from like failed ideology because it wasn't policy, and focus on policy because their base is so wrapped up because they're mentally unstable. And I'm not a clinical side. I'm not a trained professional, but if you're following this crap, you are mentally unstable.
Yeah. I mean, I I think you're right. And I think it's something that we've touched on before, because I used to struggle with this, right? Like just wrapping my head around, like, how do you find yourself in this position? It's survival, right? They don't see another path to survival. There is no way forward for this group and the leadership that they have chosen beyond Trump. It is the only reason that they won in 2016. It's the only reason they feel that they were able to get. I mean, and the truth of the matter is, right? Like they got exactly what they wanted. They got a puppet for a president who distracted the public from doing everything from all the crap that they were really doing behind the scenes to obstruct and continue to basically dismantle all of these safeguards that we had been put in place over years, and then appoint a bunch of people in positions that they thought were ultimately going to benefit them down the road.
But I don't think they dismantle anything. They're playing. They are playing fear politics, and they're playing it very well. Like I saw a clip of something I'm probably going to watch this weekend where they say if white people, it was actually on United Shades of America, right? Yeah, that's what it is. And if white people see themselves as a minority, they have to collectively see all non-whites as one people, right?
Okay.
Now, I haven't watched the episode, but I can tell you how that plays out in politics. The best strategy is to divide and conquer.
Right. I mean, and that's what that has been, right? Like the wealthy white man's goal for a long time, right?
Yep.
Like, don't focus on me. I'm not the problem.
Right.
The problem is the black guy who lives across the street from you, right?
Or the Asian man.
Or the Asian guy who's coming in and opening up a store, right?
Or
like,
the Jew, right? We play identity politics, and in my opinion, identity politics is nothing but fear mongering.
That's all it is.
There's no
basis in reality. That's
right.
the whole point. I mean, like,
you want to know why Israel and not that I'm a foreign affairs expert, but I can tell you one reason why the conflict in Israel and with the Palestinians is getting so much coverage. It's literally for the U.S. to distract.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to know why there's not a lot of coverage on the prep for the Russian-U.S. summit, it's because we're no longer the golden boys.
Yeah.
Anything that we say to Russia or even China, they can say, well, wait a minute, aren't you killing black people with impunity? Wait a minute. Don't you have an economic system that doesn't work for all of your citizens? And I'm not pro Russia or China. I'm just saying it's not to quote Chris Cuomo, but to quote Chris Cuomo, it's a game.
Yeah.
And the people that are losing are the people that are trying to just take care of their families, trying to, make a way. And I'll tell you, you want to fix crime? And I think everybody I've listened to said that they agree with me. Fix the effing economy in the neighborhoods that you're talking about crime.
Yeah.
If you want to, yes, and it goes back to mental health. Keep chipping away at people's psyches. Good people, bad people, and that's not even a moral debate, right? And this is what you get. I literally watch the footage of. I watched two things that just kind of made me go, wow, I just don't get it. I watched in San Francisco a cop get beat up by somebody, and I'm like, that guy, not saying I wanted the guy to die, but I'm like, that's a completely different outcome, right?
Yeah.
I watched sheriff's deputies in Florida listen to 22 rounds, by my estimates, from two kids in a house, and they didn't wet that house up with bullets. And I said, well, that's a different outcome. But I did hear one of the deputies say, please don't make me do this. What the hell is wrong with our country? I watched a quote unquote evangelical pastor, parrot QAnon conspiracies to his parishioners. As I'm watching other pastors, and some evangelicals, some Protestant, and I'm still trying to figure out when did Protestants separate again to to evangelicals, but that's probably a whole separate podcast. And I'm like, yo, those are not the tenets of the Bible. If Jesus walked today, seriously, he would say to most people leading churches the same thing he said to the Pharisees and the Sadducees. You don't do the work of my Father.
I mean, I will be perfectly honest. It's one of the main reasons that it was probably the issue that I had with the Catholic Church growing up was I kind of felt like you guys do realize what all these stories are actually about, right? You know, like when I kind of made my decision to leave, it was like, well, the problem is you guys did too good of a job teaching me what Jesus really wanted. That I looked around and went like, this isn't it. You know, like I have just always struggled with these, like, you know, houses of worship that are just ordained in gold and, you know, all this ornate, and it's like the amount of money, and it's like, how many homeless people would that feed? You know, like how many kids does that help if we you know, simplify these things? And it's, I don't know, we don't have to get into a whole thing on that, but
but it's okay. I mean, those are, like, if I'm being honest, like, what's bothering me is, like, I think a lot of the barriers, in my humble opinion, with mental health is that we decide what we can talk about, right? Sure. We decide because, you know what? I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but this is what I'm struggling with.
I mean, like growing up, right? Like the three things you never talked about was politics, religion, and something else I can't remember. But
I think those are the number two.
Politics and religion, yeah. Race. I think race is the third one, right? Like those are the three things you don't talk about because you never know how the other person's going to feel. It's like if I said something that made somebody feel uncomfortable about race, that's probably way more with that person than that is with me.
Or, right? Or you make them, or you do you go to the extreme. You challenge them. You challenge their way of thought.
Well, sure. Yeah. You look at it as an opportunity to educate, or to not even educate, but to have a conversation.
Have an honest conversation, right? I can't say it enough. I was super homophobic. Super. Until I literally did life with people. I had employees that were gay. I have close friends that are gay. And they're no different from me. The only difference is who they sleep with, like the sex of the person or gender, and that's confusing to me also.
that's a whole new can of worms. No, but it is one of those things, right? Like I think it's perfectly, in a lot of ways, I feel like you and I are in the same boat on that, where it's like we may not completely understand, right? It may not directly impact us in our daily lives, but you know, we're like, okay, like. If I can see a way to kind of I don't know, it's not even necessarily like putting yourself in somebody's shoes, but to have
understand,
that empathy,
right?
Like I think that's what it really, and maybe that's part of what is missing. Like maybe we stopped teaching empathy at some point. Like we've talked on previous podcasts about common sense, right, or critical thinking, and how that skill has gone away. I wonder if empathy is one of those things that maybe it's tied to critical thinking.
They are
right?
they're both tied together, right?
Because you have to be able to critically analyze the situation in order to be able to empathize with somebody else.
There's always a question of why does this happen, right? Why? The 5 whys. Like they teach that in Business 101.
Yeah.
Like
and the answers are all money. Sorry, I think so. My dad always was like, when the question is why, the answer is money.
There's a gap with thinking that we're so important, or that we can't help, or that the problem is it's bigger than we are, and it's all starting to like envelop us. It's starting like we had another hack, you know, JBS. A lot of people didn't know who JBS was. I knew who JBS was. I've been watching a lot of documentaries on food. I'm like, yo, all of our beef is run out of one company in Brazil. Like beef, chicken, pork. I mean, they own just about everything.
Well, and again, right? Like the way that these things continue to go, there will be more and more of these ransomware hacks because they just keep paying. And I'm not here to criticize the company and say that that's
I am.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not here to do that. Andre
I
is.
am. I will say you're lazy SOB, and
we talked about it with the Colonial Pipeline, right? Where it's like, you guys grossly overreacted because you were afraid you were going to basically lose money by not being able to bill people, right? And that was the real problem. But
if I'm a shareholder, I would respect you more to fix the problem.
Well, right. And to sit there and say, hey, guys, yeah, this is affecting our billing, so we might not get all of our billing right, but we're going to, we're going to correct the problem and move forward, but we're not going to, exacerbate the problem by paying off. Like, we don't negotiate with terrorists.
It's
like we need Harrison Ford back, man.
It's the flinch rule, right? If somebody, all right. So if somebody,
you're absolutely right. Whoever flinches first.
Yeah, like, you can't play that with me. It's not a good hustle. I'm like, no. I'm not scared. Like, what are you gonna? Oh, I can't bill you. All right, I can work through that, and that's where I the after effects. So, if I'm a sociologist in 10 years from now, or if I do a study in 5 years, right? So once things get back to quote unquote normal, the effects of close quarters, the effect, like if you like, a good example would be like psychological warfare.
Yeah.
The capacity of this country to endure a stressful situation is very low.
On a whole, yes, right? And I think in some ways you kind of look back at certain periods in time of stress, but yeah, like I get what you're saying. Like, I think you look at the way that people reacted and responded to the very beginning of the pandemic when it wasn't even widespread, right? And it was like all the hoarding, all the, like,
yeah, you just bring us into panic. We literally, so Governor Cooper, so respect to the governor of North Carolina, he said, guys, don't buy gas. We'll have this fixed.
Yeah.
He wasn't wrong. And granted, they probably accelerated, even though they paid the ransom, it was still a week and a half until like supply got better. They probably could have fixed that if they knew what the issue was with billing and just said, no, we'll figure that out. We can do the math backwards and tell you what we bought in supply.
Yeah.
So
that's the real issue, I think, right? And I think you were kind of getting down to it, is it's like they were just lazy. It was like, we could solve this problem, but we don't really want to. So we're just going to pay the ransom and hope it goes away.
Yeah. So we didn't have to, but we panicked. All right. So you take most of like 2/3 of the Southeast, and we panicked. If you look at with JBS, so potentially, and I didn't look at the commodity markets today, but I'm sure there's going to be an uptick in prices because people that bought futures are probably like losing their crap right now. And I didn't look on purpose. If you're like an adversary, let's say you are a Russian agent, our capacity for a system disruption is low, Chris.
Yeah.
Like, we're mentally not equipped for like our next wars are not going to be, hopefully they're not going to be, rifles and bullets. It's going to be a tech war.
Right. I mean, I think we're, in a lot of ways, we're already in the middle of that. I mean, we had, a concerted effort 5 years ago to influence the presidential elections.
Right.
And
we're still dealing with that.
Yeah. Like, we're still at a point, in large part because it worked and the person.
Okay. So I will say this, 230 should go away. I did some like, some
what
research.
Do you mean 230 should go away?
What is it? Article 230?
Okay.
What Facebook hides behind?
Yeah.
Where they actually in court filing said that they're a publisher, they're not a platform. I'd call their bluff.
Sure. I'd be fine with that.
I don't think they are a platform anymore. I am not going full left wing here, guys. I'm saying like let's call a business what a business is, right? If
Would you call Best Buy a grocery store?
No, I would never do that.
No, but they have a candy aisle, right? So, but I mean, like, right? Like,
you see my point.
Food,
you see my
exactly. No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to help you make your point, right? Like,
okay,
yes,
okay.
We could call Facebook a platform, but at the end of the day, they're not a platform. They're a publisher.
They stopped being a platform when they started buying their competitors.
Yes.
WhatsApp, Instagram. They stopped being a platform when they started selling more ads and digging into your data privacy. Yes. They stopped being a platform. They are no longer when I start selling ads, when I control the ads, I'm not a platform.
Right.
I'm a publisher. That goes for any of you. Any of you social media platforms that sell ads, magazines sell ads. You are a publisher.
Yeah.
So, and I don't like Mark Zuckerberg. So.
Yeah, I mean, I
sneaky little troll
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been really, I think, struggling with the social media stuff here lately. In large part because I have found myself just very aimlessly scrolling through from one, social media platform to another. It's
really?
Like, yeah. Where I'll just like, oh, I'm got a minute. What's on Instagram? And I'll scroll and I'll be like, what's on Facebook? What's on Twitter?
Stop doing that. Yeah.
I know. I had to stop doing it. It's bad. Do you see that Instagram introduced the new feature where you can turn off likes on your posts and hide the likes and comments on other people's posts?
No. I just...
That's supposed to make everybody feel better. If you don't know how much your stuff sucks compared to other people, you won't feel as bad. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm with you in that.
That's why I can't. I just can't. I don't want to, but I kind of can't ignore the elephant in the room. I do think social media is starting to impact people's perception. I don't want to say their mental health, but their perception of their reality.
Well, yeah, because what they see on social media is what they interpret as reality, when most of the time that's not the case. Things are incredibly photoshopped, right? It's like, I was reading an article about some influencer, great job title, who...
Spokesperson, yeah, I'm sure.
Was doing one of these stupid TikTok challenges, right?
And had a heart attack, right?
Yeah, the protein powder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to dry scoop some protein powder and then go do my workout, and has a literal heart attack. And I'm just like, I mean, there's never been something that I've seen on the internet where I'm like, sight unseen, I'm going out and trying that right now. Tide Pods, right? Like, there was never a point where I was like, man, I want to stick a Tide Pod in my mouth. Like, no, I know that that's freaking toxic crap. Like, this is where, again, we come back into critical thinking. There's none of it there. You were literally seeing something and go, I can do that. This might make me famous.
But that's okay. That's all right.
So do we have Candid Camera, America's Funniest Home Videos? Do we have them to blame for all of this? Is that
yeah, your 20-pound camcorder. Yeah, I think that it just makes me. I can't reconcile that, I don't have a solve for it, but I will say that, the myth of, there's a bunch of myths. And I think that if there's a Bible verse, and I'm not trying to get preachy here, but it's one of my guideposts. And the verse is, sin is crouching at your door, and it seeks to devour you like a lion. You must have control over it. Right? We know instinctively there are some things, and that was actually right before Cain killed Abel, if I'm being honest. right? We know instinctively that what we're doing is wrong, and we flirt with it. And being aware of it, like, it's crouching at the door. It's waiting for you, and it wants to devour you like a lion. Like, like a lion's bad. But what do you choose to do? Do you want to go flirt with the lion and see what happens? No, you don't. Like, but if you decide to, it's gonna get you. And I think that there's indicators all around us in our environment, in our society, that actually we as a people, general, have been so emboldened to say that, no, I can handle that. And it's proven time after time that we can't. And we're watching suicide rates of teenagers increase. We're watching gun violence increase. We're watching the degradation of our democracy. We're watching people we love and care about that are getting sucked into QAnon conspiracies and theories. What don't we believe about the lion is my question. Like, and I'm not trying to be preachy. It's super simple wisdom. If a lion's at your front door, you're not going to go like pick a fight.
Right. It's like sitting there saying, I can handle being on the other side of the door from the lion. Well, I can handle cracking the door open a little bit. Well, I can handle sticking my hand out and, petting the lion. I can handle climbing on the lion. Okay, now Doug. All of those little steps in between make you feel really confident until you take that big one. And
right.
Yeah, like I hear exactly what you're saying. And I think, if anything, over the last year, like, this country has proven. Man, lions. I hope there aren't any lions coming, because
they're nipping at us. Like, there are so many gaps. My heart really, like, I'm back to Yashar, right? At one would perceive the top of his game, lots of notoriety, and I don't know what his struggle is. I'm not trying to pretend, but he's just as susceptible to the pain of the world as everybody else. That should tell you something. If you're a smart person, not smart, if you're an aware person, you should be like, yeah, then I should probably pause, right? I should pause and think about it. If he's just as susceptible to the darts in the world and the things that can, like, get you off your game, take you off, and just get in a dark place, what makes me so special, right?
Yeah, to think that I am somehow,
immune,
impervious, immune to that.
And I keep going back to nobody stopped, man. Like, and I wasn't. That's what I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about, like, the last couple weeks, and I've had good. Like, you're always gonna have good times, right? I went to Puerto Rico. Shoot, I had a great time.
Yeah, but that
my dude's getting married. I'm happy for that. But the reality is, like, yeah, but life is not all about the peaks. Sometimes it's the valleys. And how do I be strong for me, to be strong for my family, to be strong for my friends, to be strong for, the casual walker by, because we all need each other. And this is like the most hippie I ever get, because we all need each other to get to the next day.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the whole point of this, right? Like, none of us does this alone, right? None of us is here by themselves, on this planet, like, cursed to walk, completely isolated from the rest of society. Like, we should be each other's safety nets, right? We should be the person that other people can lean on in their times of needs, and know that when we are in need, someone will be there to help us and be there for us to lean on them.
Or not to push you, right?
Right. Like, exactly. Not to trip you, right? Like, I mean, that's the whole point. But at some point, I mean, and I know that it's not like, oh, over the last 100 years, human society has gone off the rails. Like, there's always been, there's a great line from one of my favorite shows, The Venture Brothers.
Of course there is.
And it's like, today the third caveman was born, a conspiracy theory was hatched. because it's like you're always sitting there like those two are plotting against me, right? But that's where I feel like we're at to some degree, where it's like, we feel like we're constantly, oh, I've got to get mine, right? If I don't take advantage of this, somebody else is, and then I'm going to feel bad. And it's like, but if you achieve something through, immoral means, right? It's like if you're Tom Brady and you got to deflate footballs to win championships, are you really that great of a quarterback?
Or if you're Al Capone, are you really that? Like, I always think back to Al Capone, right? Everybody was like,
are you that good of a gangster if you got caught for tax evasion?
Yeah, I know, right? It's so you're so enamored by your boy. It's like, yo, but dude couldn't even like get a good accountant, right?
Yeah.
That's how they got it. Well, they also created the RICO laws because of that. Yeah. But I was talking to one of my sons, and they struggle with this whole, like, I'm not an evangelical. I'm not, but I am a person of faith, right? I'm like, look, man, this world is broken. Like, there's nothing we can do about that. Like, we just got to accept the fact that it is what it is. But our responsibility is to literally try to be the best version of ourselves whenever we can. It's hard to do the right thing. It literally is, because it's so easy to do what everybody else is doing. And that's our charge. Like, sure, I would love for everybody to be singing like Kumbaya actually I wouldn't. I would love for everybody to be like, get along and try to treat, but it's not going to happen. Yeah. I can accept there are going to be racist people. I can accept the fact that there are going to be hateful people. I can accept it. Like I told you last week, you can't save everybody. As much as you want to, you can't. Like, it's just not going to happen. But your responsibility and my responsibility is to be the best person I can be. There was a moment in my life where, and it sounds like the things you hear in movies where you're shaving and you don't recognize yourself. I had that moment where I was shaving and I was like, who did you become? I was so far from who I thought I was and who I wanted to be. And once I recognize, and I'm not kidding you, once I realized that, like within a week or two, everything went south. Like, it was just like I was internally fighting with myself, trying to perpetrate this image I thought I was and who was inside of me. And I vowed that I will never try to be two people again. And ever since then, like when I moved back to Raleigh, I've never tried to be like duplicitous in that. I'm going to be the same person in public as I am in private. Because I didn't like that feeling. I didn't like not knowing who I was. And it tore me apart. And I couldn't, like, my psyche couldn't handle like it. I'm too emotionally lazy to do that anyway. It's like, I just can't. It
is like, it's absolutely exhausting. Like I think like that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that because you are constantly on, there is no off button in that case. Like you're constantly filtering what it is that you're thinking between, is this my public persona or my private persona, right?
Right.
And I struggled with that too for a while, where it was like I was convinced that I could be somebody completely different when I was at home and when I was away from work than when I was at the office. And it took like a pretty significant event in my life and somebody basically saying like, stop doing that to get me to realize like, this is why I feel so crappy. Right. Like underneath everything else, like this is what's really eating at me is that I know what I'm doing in certain situations isn't the right thing. I know that I'm not living the values that I ascribe to. And yet, when I'm in public, I'm still putting on a face like I am, right?
And that's not healthy. It's not healthy for anybody.
And so now I just own all of my mistakes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a huge fuck up. What are you going to do about it?
I don't like that.
I know. That's not. really where I am.
Yeah, you're trying, right? Like I try every day, and I screw up every day. I say things. I want people to. You don't have to like me at the end of the day, but I want you to at least respect the fact that that dude didn't change, right? It's it's good that mental health is becoming it's becoming more accepted to talk about in public. I don't think that our society is okay with that pivot or that change.
I have somebody that wants to say hi.
Oh, I know who it is.
Come here. Real quick. We're in the middle of an episode.
What's up, buddy? Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I heard you guys have good family news. What is it?
Me and Miss... I almost said me and Miss Christie are getting married. Daddy and Miss Christie are getting married.
Are you excited? I'm excited too, sweetie. I'm super excited.
What are you working on now?
I was playing with my Legos. My tiny Legos. My tiny Legos. My headphones. My headphones.
You're gonna get in trouble.
My headphones.
You want to come and say hi another time? You need to give me my headphones back.
Bye, sweetie.
They were too comfortable.
I know they are very comfortable. That's why I bought them.
And also, I didn't even think they were there anymore. Why did you take this stuff away from me?
Because it was down here. All right. Can you please? I know you're having fun. Hey.
Bye, sweetie. She's in so much trouble.
Good night. It's only 6:30. You got an hour until bedtime. Hey, can I finish my podcast, please? Remember we had family day on Tuesday. Right, family night is usually on Thursday nights, but because we had family day on Tuesday, that was also our family night this week. Okay, I know that you like jumping, but I am in the middle of recording a podcast episode and would like to get back to that now, okay? No. You know why. No, that's not the answer. I love you very much. That's all staying in, by the way. I'm not editing any of that out. Please close the door.
Oh, man. That was funny.
She got an iPod Touch for Family Day, which is our big family anniversary, June 1st.
Do they still sell those?
They do, yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's basically an old, like it's like an iPhone 4 or 5S or something like that without the cell plan. Is all it really is.
Oh, you should. How much are they?
We got a refurbished one for like a little over $100 or something like that.
No way.
I think so, yeah. So basically for her, it's got, like she can message anybody that's got iMessage, so anybody with an iPhone that we add contact-wise. And then there's also the Facebook Instant Messenger for kids, which has similar like controls and stuff like that. So you can control who it is that they add and who they talk to, and you get to see all the messages and stuff
so
that
cool.
they send. So
I literally, like about a week ago, I was like, I wonder if they sell that anymore.
Yeah.
That's a cool device.
yeah, it's not bad. I used to love my iPod back in the day. What's really funny is I remember when the iPhone first came out, and I was like, why would I want a phone in my iPod? I like them separate. And now I was obviously not on the cutting edge of things.
Yeah, that's
point.
funny. This has been a heavy conversation, but that's what I've been thinking about, man.
Well, and I'll tell you, like, that right there is the reason I'm always thinking about this stuff now, right? Like, it changed when you become a parent. It stops being exclusively about your experience in the world and also about what your kids are going to have to experience and what they are experiencing and the stuff that they go through on a daily basis. And, we have been very careful with the social media stuff. Like, she doesn't have any of her own social media, profiles. When she was born, I thought about I'll create a Facebook profile for her so that I can tag her in all these pictures. And I was like, yeah, why would I do that? That's dumb. Like, let her make that decision when she gets old enough.
I think that I don't have a solve, but I think that, and I keep prefacing everything I say with I don't have a solve, but I think that the simplest answer is the best answer, right? It's why are we talking about filibuster? Like, something's not working. Like, why are we still talking about Texas's abortion bill they just passed? Something's not working. Like, you can't be the contradiction for me is you're pro-life. And this is for you're pro-life evangelicals. You back the blue evangelicals, but you beat cops on 1/6. You take away the understanding and the consideration of a woman, like you control her body. There are biblical things where it's like I would love to go toe to toe with one of these like clowns and to say, please help me understand how your viewpoint is right.
But they're never even challenged on that.
They should be. They should be.
I mean, they absolutely should be, but they're not. And I'm with you in that. Like, I don't really understand why. Like, is it some massive conspiracy, right? Like, amongst politicians and media and all this other, the puppet masters where it's like, oh, make them think that we all hate each other, but deep down, Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden are best friends, right? Like,
here's my take on a couple of those things, right? For the evangelicals, your hypocrisy is showing, right? Like, if you want to say that, the first thing I'll say to them is you've taken a good majority of the Bible out of context. It's not Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's why I don't like Franklin Graham. I just can't. Every time I see his commercial, I want to vomit. Your marketing still sucks. We all know sin is the problem, but it's a broken world. Period.
You didn't like the Buddy Christ improvement that they?
I just can't. I can't stand him. Like, I can't stand Franklin Graham.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I hate him, but he makes me want to throw up.
Yeah. Hate is to me is like there is an active kind of.
Oh, I hate Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you can't hate people. I'm just saying that, like, no, I'm with you in that. I think there is another level for hate.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stand. I have a complete distaste for it, but hate is like, yeah. And Trump is one of those people where I hate him. Really hating him.
Yeah, I really just do. But the evangelicals, like, your argument is so weak, and everybody that you talk to on the news, anytime that you're on the news, I wish there were people that were more versed to shut you up.
Yeah.
I wish and I pray that there were more people to shut you up because you're hypocrites. I can't stand it makes me always go back to, I understand why people are atheists. I understand why people hate church. I understand why people don't believe in God. Because the marketing department for evangelicals, who unfortunately for some reason in CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News give them way too much press time. They are not people that understand the Bible. period. And I wish you'd stop doing that, because every time you do that, you make people that are uneducated. Did you know it's a true fact? Most Catholics do not read their own Bible.
Yes.
It is a fact. My wife is, she was raised Catholic. We got married in a Catholic church. So we went to the marriage classes. You know, in order to get married in a Catholic church, you have to go to these classes, right? The priest that did our class said to my wife, "Wow, your husband really knows the Bible." Everybody else, I'm not Catholic. I've never been Catholic, but I knew more about the Bible, and I was asking questions because, like, I was like, questioning like how the priest was saying certain things. I'm like, that's not really technically in context. So, like, if you think about what you said here.
What? I don't know. I am in the middle of doing a podcast episode. Where's my Fitbit?
So he made a comment, well, this guy really, and I know my Bible because it's important to me, but I'm not like a Bible thumper, right?
Yeah.
But I do
very good care of your Bibles. You wouldn't be just thumping them.
Yeah. Or I'm not the type, everything's going to send you to hell. That's not technically true, right? That's not actually good theology. It doesn't make sense.
I think I just caught a fruit fly.
I guess good.
There
Like
he is.
Mr.
I know. I
Miyagi.
felt good for a second, and then it was just like, asshole.
You're like the Yankees left outfielder. But you missed. But so my point being is, like, it's just a matter of, like, you can't paint that broad brushstroke of like, oh, Christians believe this. Nope, you're talking about a certain segment of evangelicals, which I'm still on the fence of what that even means. And
how loosely related it is to actual Christianity.
Right.
Just because you carry a Bible and talk about the cross.
Yeah, you can't be all like, I don't know. I'm just like not pro.
You're not pro evangelical.
I'm not. You can't say everything is about 10 verses in the New Testament. That is not right.
Let's just pretend like the Old Testament was never written.
It never happened.
Yeah, I mean, the cherry picking, right? The lack of context, which, you know, I just like to point out that context, if broken up into the two parts, con and text. Con coming from the Spanish word con, which is with, and text coming from the English word text, so with text.
God, I love you, man.
I hadn't done one of my like crazy.
I was gonna like spiral into like this whole like biblical like rant for like 20 minutes,
and I pulled out
context.
Thank
you. Yeah. You take the Latin root of this word, and what pisses me off is most of these guys they can't even tell you that, you know, that most of this was written in Aramaic. And then I could like take every word that you throw out and be like, yeah, but you don't have the actual definition of the word because this text was written in Aramaic. This was written in Greek.
Yeah.
Oh, but if you go forward a couple more, this is probably written in like, you know, Greek with a Roman like basis to the word.
Yeah.
So it just it frustrates me, and it frustrates me that, you know, I get angry. I do get angry. Because it's not right, man. I want people, and I keep going back to, because this is the vivid picture in my mind. I remember that night where nobody stopped, Chris. Like, I couldn't count how many cars, because I didn't. But something told me to turn around and try to do something. But that's where our society's at right now. We're watching people struggle, and we're all too busy to stop and try to do the right thing. From sports to politics to, you know, how we treat our family and friends, you know, being available, right? Like if you ever called me and I didn't answer the phone and I didn't get back with you, what kind of person does that make me? Right? Even not just to say, hey, I'm really tied up for the next couple of days. Can I call you back on this day? Or can we connect on this day? like we don't care. We literally, and I'm not saying, well, I am saying in general we don't care. It's all superficial.
Yeah, but it's like you're saying, right at the end of the day, if I'm calling you today and you're like, hey, I don't have time to talk today, but I'll call you back in 2 days, right? Am I going to be like, man, fuck that guy. He can't make time for me right now when I want to talk to him? No, I'll be like, all right, cool. Obviously, he's got stuff going on. Like, you know, if it's that big of an emergency, I'd be like, hey, this is really important whenever you have, like, I just need a minute, but I got to tell you something, right? And it's, yeah, like, I knew when I pulled out my phone Sunday morning and started calling you, I was like, he's going to answer. The only reason I thought you might not answer is if you were at church at that time. And I was like, unless he's at church, he's going to answer his phone. And you did.
Right.
Because, I mean, I know that I can call you anytime and you'll answer.
Yeah. Well, COVID has messed up my church game, but...
Well, yeah.
But I would have been out by 12 o'clock because, you know, I like those days of going to church for 3 hours, way gone.
It was really funny. So... funny church story that I can add on to lighten things up ever so slightly. So this weekend we were down at the beach, and Sunday morning after the proposal, we came back, and my parents had tickets to go to their church at 8:30 because they have to get tickets for the,
that's cool.
for the masses and stuff like that. And so Helena was like, "Can I come to church?" And you know, my dad's like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, "I want to go to church?" And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, have fun." And so she goes, and they get ready to do communion. And my dad's like, "Well, do you want to come up with us and receive a blessing?" And she's like, "Well, what's that?" And he's like, "Well, you just walk up and you kind of have your arms crossed like this, and they'll, you know, give you a little blessing, and then you walk back." And she was like, "No, I'll stay here." And he was like, "Okay, great." And so they get up and they walk out and they go down, and he, you know, receives the Eucharist and moves over. And then all of a sudden, he just happens to glance behind him. There's Helena sticking a Eucharist in her mouth.
She's like, there's snack time at church. Yeah,
it's snack time. They're handing out snacks. And then, like, today she was complaining to me about how bad the wafer tasted. She's like, "But I didn't get any red wine." And I was like, "Well, that's good, I guess."
Yeah, but Catholics do have this setup, though, man. Like, straight up. Like, we had our reception. We actually got married at St. Mike's. And I was like, yo, man, we're drinking. Like, it was a great party. Like, we have friends today, like, yeah, your reception was dope. I'm like, yeah. And if I ever converted to Catholicism, it'd be like lit because you can drink, apparently. Nobody's like judging you.
No. I mean, there's plenty of judgment going on in the Catholic Church, but it's not for drinking.
It's not for drinking. But I, you know, and I really do want to explore the taboo of, like, you know, faith, right? And I pause to use the word Christian because even back in the day, they were never called Christians. They were called followers of the way, right? That's a colloquialism that was used, like, in, you know, 2nd century, I believe.
And now we call them Mandalorians.
I know, right?
This is the way.
Oh, so I found out that apparently George Lucas was following this. I think it was a philosopher that was pretty popular in the late 60s and 70s that was trying to understand, like, the human struggle between good and evil and religion. Yeah. And that is a basis, obviously, of a lot of Star Wars,
that's
mythology.
where the midichlorians come from.
Yes. Actually, you're laughing.
I am, because what the fuck is a midichlorian?
You're laughing, but you're not wrong. So it actually piqued my interest, like, to figure out, like, and I believe he's Jewish, right? George Lucas.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't want to be like, yeah, Lucas, that sounds like a Jewish name, or you know, like, yeah, he kind of looks like he'd be Jewish. Like, those are both not things that we need to be saying anymore. Then I'm sitting here going, well, Steven Spielberg on the other.
Yeah, he's definitely. But it's interesting, right? Those are like the like how Americans, like, we if I was to like fast forward, and this is like another interesting like project I may pick up, right? If you look at how we, the contrast is how people attach themselves to that mythology of Star Wars, like super in depth.
Yeah.
Like people get like super angry when you start, crapping on Star Wars. And then you fast forward, and there was a recent poll of evangelicals attaching themselves to QAnon. And I'm like, okay. One of the only like social scientists I've ever been interested in is sociology. That's why I keep bringing it up, right?
Yeah.
You can change all the surroundings and all the entrappings, but we still do the same thing. Like our behaviors are just systematically entwined, and like they're integrated to do the same thing all the time. It doesn't surprise me that evangelicals are intrigued and they believe like QAnon conspiracies. Like seriously, it does not. Just like it doesn't surprise me that the traditional Protestant is anti-Trump, anti like QAnon, because they're super like they're orthodox. They're more orthodox than evangelicals. Evangelicals, short version for me, is they believe Jesus, 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 and they take out all the teaching of Jesus, and they only worry about salvation. Protestants are more like, for lack of a better term, more scholarly in their Bible study. And I think that is like very interesting, that thread,
Yeah. Well, that's where I feel like, with a lot of the branches of Christianity, right? Where it's all, they kind of like, well, we look at it this way, right? Or we see it this way. And, like Lutheranism, which was a departure from, Catholicism, and then Protestants, which was a departure from Lutheranism, and Calvinism. And it's like, all of these different branches that you can explore just based off of that one kind of main tree,
thread,
right?
Yeah.
The thread that is kind of Christianity and Jesus Christ. And I think like for me, somebody who grew up in the Catholic Church but is no longer like an active member of any organized religion, like I understand that there's a lot of valuable things that you can learn by going to church and reading the Bible. Like I believe that there are a lot of really great lessons and stuff like that, things that to live your life by, But I guess where I struggle is with like to some degree what I feel becomes almost like fanaticism, where it's like there's.
I'm gonna like really crush all your
go ahead.
theology on that. The only purpose of church is community, right? That's it. Has nothing to do with like what you learn. The early church, quote unquote church, was basically sharing the letters of the apostles.
Right.
That's the
but isn't part of that, education about the
no,
stance and the history?
No, because the actual early history of the church had nothing to do with like tradition, right? It was basically, these are the teachings. These are like, whether it was actually.
Okay. But you literally just said teachings.
So
and we're talking about education. I love you.
No, okay, yeah. So I contradicted myself, but so in historical,
I think I understand what like the focus was much more on the community,
right?
The point wasn't to educate; it was we want to provide a place for people to come.
If you were to take away the writings of Paul, or take the writings of Paul, for example, like Acts or Romans or anything like that, there's a common theme throughout all of it. It has nothing to do with like the stacked upon like things that people do currently, right? There's a common theme in all those things. And the teachings of, really the good question is, what would Jesus do? And what would Jesus do? Jesus would do things that were honorable to God, right? if you fast forward a couple, 100 centuries, and people start to say, hey, people want to have a better quality of life by, integrating with their brothers and sisters, how do we manipulate that? You start to get all these, you become the Catholic Church, you become the Greek Orthodox Church or the Russian Orthodox Church, then you become Protestants, you become Lutherans. The main thing wasn't the main thing for a long time. And the teachings of Christ were never about, it was never about the structure of the organization. It was about, let's deconstruct that organization and say, what is the point?
Right.
The point
is, what should we be focused on?
Yeah.
And then the church literally said, okay, that's the point. How do we build a structure around this point?
Right. So that becomes education, right? The teachings of Christ. And so I look at it from the teaching, like if you look at the Sermon on the Mount, it was the antithesis of everything society was saying.
Right.
That was the problem. That's why he was crucified. He never strayed away from the fact that, no, that's not really what it was about. You're talking about the 10 Commandments like they were the law to replace the law? No. This is the commandment. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and treat your neighbors as yourself. And have we gotten it right yet? The answer is no, right? Because he was quizzed. He was quizzed by the educators on what was the greatest commandment. You can't have 10 commandments without one being number one. Which one do you want it to be? Okay, I hear you. And I can see Jesus like, yo, my dude, I got you. Yeah. So what you're saying is, right? You're saying like, I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So let me just throw this back at you. Let me throw it back at you. All right, here's the greatest commandment. Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. Like your will, what you think about, and what you live for. And on top of that, treat everybody like you treat yourself, bro. And nobody was trying to hear that. They're like, oh, no. And that was the difference between teaching, right? Teaching is, no, what is the basis of what we should be doing? Because we want a better life. In education, rules, regulations. Yeah. And that's in a layman's way of looking at it, as a person that's struggled with this for many years, the difference of teaching and education, like you can educate me all day, but I don't have to believe what you say. Those are just like words, right? But for something I can actually do, I can try every day to love God with like how I strive to live, what I think about, and what my passion is, and trying to treat people like I want to be treated. I can do that. I can't follow your rules all day. I'll fail. So that's that's a layman's way of looking at it. And I think that's what a lot of people don't hear. They hear, you're going to hell. Sure, that's true. Like, what can I do differently? Oh, you're going to go to hell. You're going to go to hell for that? You're going to go to hell for that. And I think that's wrong. And I think I believe I understand why people don't trust churches. I understand why people don't believe in God. Because if that's your God, I want nothing to do with him. I want nothing to do with him because his expectations are unrealistic. If we're so flawed, if we're all doomed to go to hell without his salvation, I can't meet those expectations. So I quit. If you're telling me this is your God and he's got like, the Catholic Church is the second largest landowner on the planet next to McDonald's, believe it or not, then I can't rock with that. There's just something they can't do. There's just
I'm Catholic.
And I'm not saying, and I've got Catholic friends, and they are good people. And
yes,
I don't mean good people surface. I mean they are like, strong believers in their faith.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, your marketing team sucks. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's I feel like a huge part of what the Catholic Church, but probably Christianity as a whole, has kind of suffered through over the last, I don't know,
two millennia.
Yeah. But it's just like, I feel like the opportunities they've had, where whether it was a pope who was like, we're cool with bringing in more people, and then you had like all the cardinals were like, oh, we got to kill this fucking pope. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, this guy doesn't get it. And it's like, you literally just made him the Pope. Like,
Yeah, the new
That's-
pope is dope though.
yeah, I mean, and that's just it. Like, I'm not.
I know you're not being anti. I'm just
No, I'm not
my-
anti-religion. I'm not even anti-Catholicism. I'm not, like, for me, it's if that helps you, right, in your life and provides some structure and guidance or provides some benefit to you, whatever it may be, then, like, I'm all for that. I personally reached a point where it was like, I don't feel like I'm getting out of this what I feel like I should be getting out of this, right?
and that's very valid.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. Like, and I totally understand why people feel that way. I really do. It's like, no, I get it. If you're like looking at the church on a whole, I don't rock with that team.
Well, and I think, like, part of it, I think this is really kind of, this to me starts to put that whole education versus teaching into perspective. Is so much of my education in Catholicism was, like, you're not supposed to eat an hour before you go to mass, right? Like, it's all those silly little rules, right? Like, those are the things that felt like they were so much more important than, like, what the message was that Jesus was
Right.
trying to get across. Like, how each of us should be spending each and every day looking for ways to be more like that, right? Like,
Yo,
those are the
Jesus
things-
was a gangster, yo. Like, he was
dude walked into temples and flipping tables
he was
over,
like-
right?
He's like, what are you doing? Nah.
He's like, hey, hookers, come hang out with me. Like,
Yeah. I mean, he hung out with people that we look at even now in society as the lowest of our society.
yeah,
And the trick about salvation to me is, like, we never know. And I definitely want to get this point across. I can't stress enough. There are two things that have blown my mind. And I've always, we've always talked about when I learned, like, meet people where they're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was watching CNBC the other day, and I was listening to an analyst say that this X company, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast, they learned the secret of meeting people where they're at. And I'm like, yo, that principle is kind of old, yo. And I know where it came from.
yeah,
Jesus, like, straight up went to the peers to meet his disciples where they were at. And then secondly, like, I often think about, when the woman was caught in adultery, and we all know he without sin cast the first stone. Nobody threw a stone. And Jesus said, go and sin no more. And that was it. And that's the part where I think a lot of people, they skip that part. And I can't stress that enough. He did not prescribe, go and do like 60 Hail Marys and blah, blah, blah. He literally said, yo, I see where you're at, and I don't think you want to be there. Go do your best.
yeah.
And in my mind, and in the text, to be honest, because nothing was prescribed before or after, and if you look at that story and the couple times it's placed, it's literally the same result. Go and sin no more. And I think that people, they try to live this stoic, like, prescribed life of faith. It doesn't exist. Profanity. Peter said, I don't know, dude. He said it like 3 times before the rooster crowed. And the third, in the way it's transcribed in Greek, he used profanity. He was like, fuck, I don't know him. Leave me alone, yo. Like, why are you trying to rat me out? I'm not trying to die today. That's how much he was emphatic of saying, I don't know him. So we add these extra things, like, we understand, like, it's going to help us to live a better life. You know when I'm having a better life? When, like, the people I love and care about, they know I love and care about them.
Yeah.
When I can look at a good day and a bad day in the same lens and know that at the end of the day, it's all worth it. It's all good. It's all purposeful. I don't look at this, superficial crap. And that's what, like, I guess at the end of the day, as we circle through this and we wrap this up, because we should. When I look at mental health, when I look at the things that we've been talking about, it's purposeful when we know that it's all worth it. Our good and bad days, and that's what I hope people can try to find, whether it's whatever end of the spectrum we're on. We can all find that. It's been a hard couple weeks, dude.
It's been crazy. I mean, like there's a lot going on, in everybody's lives, and we're kind of, I think, in some ways, like we're coming out of the routine of wearing masks everywhere, and like that's still weird for me. I get out of my car and I put my mask on, and I'm walking to the store, and I'm like. Half the time I'll wear it in the store, half the time I won't. Usually, if I have my kid with me, I'll usually wear it because I'm trying to show her, like, because she's obviously not vaccinated yet. But, I think it's, I mean, we're all dealing with a ton, right? It's one of those where it's just, you never know what somebody else is going through. You never know what kind of challenges somebody else is facing. And it's not a competition, right?
Right.
It's not... You don't have to hear somebody's story and go, you think that's bad. Let me tell you about my life. Like, this isn't, we're not competing for
I do that with white people all the time, though. I'm not going to lie.
No, I mean, look, we all do that from time to time, right? Like, I think it's human nature for us to want to try and relate somebody else's story or experience to something that we have also experienced, right? Oh, that's just like this time when I had this happen, right? How many times... When you finish a story, right, I'll say that to you. Like and part of that is just the way that we converse, right? We're relating things and saying, I understand where you're at. It's not always
But how many times I say, Chris, you don't get it, bro.
Right. And there are times when I have to say, I'll never know what that feels like.
Right.
Right? I will never know what it feels like to be a black man in America. Like,
but that's honest. That's being honest, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. And it's
okay to say that, right? It's okay to say, I'll never know what that feels like. And you don't have to go over the top and be like, oh, I wish that I could walk a mile in your shoes, or if only I could be black for one day. And it's like, okay, it's like, look, I'm never going to know what that feels like, but I'm going to take your word because you're my friend and because I know you and I love you, that experience was not good, right? Like what you had to deal with was bad. And if there's anything that I can do on my end to try and prevent that from happening again, like I need to figure out what that is. Like it's not that hard. I think that's like at the end of the day, and I'm again guilty of this too. It seems really hard sometimes, but it's such the little simple things that often make the biggest difference in other people's lives.
I can't, like you said that very well, and I typically don't like to reiterate a point, but what keeps flashing back in my mind is nobody stopped. And I think we can all stop. Like, I think we can all stop. Like, I mean,
there's no reason not to, right? What was more important than that man's life that night for anybody else?
I didn't save his life, and like I've come to grips with that like multiple times in my life. Like that wasn't a lesson for me to learn. The lesson for me to learn was, can you decide to do the right thing even when it's convenient for you just to drive by? And I remember his wife's face, I remember his mother's face, and I remember his face. But we can always try. That's the haunting lesson. And I love you, bro. You know that. And I don't say that because it's cute to say. I say it because I know that you would stop. And that's what I want people to do. Like one more person to try. Just try. Yes, Yashar, like my dude, I don't know you like that. You're probably never going to listen to this, but I just want to let you know, like, yo, I see what you're saying. everybody. Like, and I don't. I'm not trying to top what you said because it was so eloquent. It was so eloquent. It's just like, yo, can we just stop and try? Like,
that's. I mean, I do. You're right. Like that is the essence of it, right? Stop and try. That's all you're being asked from every other person on this planet. Just stop and try. Yeah. And it's okay if you don't succeed, right? But if you don't stop and you don't try,
you miss the lesson.
You miss everything.
Yep. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're super glad you joined us. And I know this is it's, again, I don't apologize for it. This is like, this guy decided to get married so we can have lunch. And then, I had, do work thing and, keep the lights on. This is what's been like heavy on my heart. And it gives me a chance to kind of reflect on it and like get a different perspective. And I like, I'm not like, honesty and mental health are like probably going to be my banner for a while. Like I want people to be whole, like, and whole for me looks different from whole from, for you. And honesty is honesty, right? There's facts and there's truth, and we should always strive to, meet on truth. Facts, they're subjective. Right. And, but we can always do better. Chris, I love you, brother. I'm super happy for you and your family. Glad I got to see my buddy. And I'm sorry if this has been a drag, but if you had lunch with us, this is what I'd be talking about. So, yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? Like, not every episode and not every conversation is going to be super funny and, uplifting. And
yeah.
I'll be perfectly honest. There was part of me this afternoon that was like, man, I don't know if I've got like the energy, like just the juice to sit down and do a podcast episode. And then like, I realized I was like, you don't have to. You don't have to be on. You don't have to be anybody. Like, just show up and be yourself. And like, if there's anybody in this world that's going to appreciate that, it's going to be on. It turned out to be a fucking fantastic episode. So
yeah, because I just need to like I hope the people that listen, like, there's some truth to what we say, and we're going to be honest. And I know there's other people thinking about it. And it's one of the joys of not having sponsors. We can talk about whatever we want to talk about. And we're going to make a bunch of clips because I think we need to really, I can't stress enough that mental health is important. Like, I can't stress enough. Like, I think that you have friends, family, loved ones that just need somebody to listen and help them see off the ledge. Chris is one of the people, and I have three, this many, that keep me off the ledge more often than not. So we're super glad you joined us. If you're listening to us, please subscribe, whether that be on YouTube. Please subscribe and like on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pandora.
Then Chris might stop dancing. No, I'll just do another happy dance.
Pandora, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you want to be. And also Spotify. So don't want to forget them. You can always visit us at chrisandandreshow.com. Send us emails, comments at chrisandandreshow.com. I did change it. You can hit me up at Andre at chrisandandreshow.com or Chris at chrisandandreshow.com. We're super glad you joined us. And as always, I'm Andre.
And I'm still Chris.
And we'll talk to you next time.